Welcome back to the second part. As a reminder, the most advice that you're going to find on the internet is advice for the upcoming photographers, cinematographers, or at least content creators, but not for someone who just wants to look good on camera in a freaking Zoom call. And so here we are. In the first video, we talked about audio, and now we're going to talk about how to actually look better on camera. The same as a better microphone is the last step in the audio chain, a better camera, or technically a better camera body, is the last step in the video chain. Cool? Let's get right to it. Let's go with the same recipe as in the previous video. We're going to start with some computer stuff, and feel free to skip this section. However, this time is actually going to be very short, so you might want to stick around. Most people these days take meetings either on their phone, which is something that we're not going to talk about, or on 15-inch laptops, which usually come with a full HD screen, which has a so-called 180p resolution. In all honesty, it's not super important to know this, but it could come in handy towards the end of the video once you're going to start shopping for cameras. Only two things to know about this. Most cameras can shoot at these specs, even webcams, however, not the laptop webcams. Those usually shoot at 720p at 30 frames per second, by the way. And the second part is that some video call software limits your resolution to 720p anyway, so there's no point in buying a fancy camera. As mentioned in the previous video, you need something like 10 Mbit down and up, or you could get away with 5 if you live alone. Also, I know that you're not going to listen to me about this, but cables are still more stable than Wi-Fi. Enough about computers. Here's our typical priority list. It's you, ambience, light, lens, camera body. So let's run through this list real quick, shall we? The first thing is you. I don't need to say much about you. None of this fancy stuff is going to get you a job. But since we're already in the video section, I might as well point out that even though technically you don't require a suit, you're still at work, so you might mentally pretend like you're in an office. Let me paraphrase. Please wear pants. Thank you. Which reminds me, since we're talking about you, we might as well talk about our sponsor, which is you or people like you. We are currently on the road to 500 patrons who collectively helped me pay for an editor who, by the way, made this video awesome. I'm gonna make it awesome, right? Instead of spending my time on editing videos, I prefer to spend this time with you, whether it's answering your questions on Discord or hanging out with you during live streams. There is many of you and only one of me, so every dollar counts. Thank you. Let's move on to number 2, which is your ambience. Now, these days, most call software like Zoom or Google Meet or whatnot can blur out your background or replace it entirely, or you could even use a green screen, but I actually don't recommend any of that. Firstly, it requires quite a bit of resources on your laptop's part, and most likely you are on a laptop. Remember, we talked about this in the previous video, fans and overheating and all of that stuff. And secondly, and this one is somewhat of a personal opinion, you might want to show your real ambience. Remote work already distances you from people. Don't make this distance even longer. In fact, green screen down. No, not this one. See? Nothing fancy. It's just a closet. And by the way, avoid those reflective surfaces, especially mirrors. I'm gonna bring it back because this is not a Zoom call, but you get the idea. Ta-da! Let's talk about lighting. Not lightning, lighting. Talking about lights here. Lighting is for sure the most important item in this entire video. In fact, lighting was the reason why I created this video and the previous one as well. You have no idea how many times I'm in meetings with people who have a window behind them. What are you going for? Some dramatic Game of Thrones look with shadows on your face? Just sit in front of a window. Here's the biggest secret in cinematography. Are you ready? Cameras cannot see in the dark. Oh no, the secret is out. Now everybody's gonna look amazing on camera. All right, jokes aside. No, for real, check this out. My camera costs around 800 bucks, which is actually rather on the cheap side when it comes to cinematography standards. But for you who is just getting into it, I know it sounds expensive. So a relatively decent camera, but check this out. Boom, lights off, no vision. So if you're using something as shitty as a webcam, please, can you at least sit in front of the window or have some other light that shines on your face and not on your camera? Thank you. Here are some details. The most common light to light a person in cinema is a so-called diffused light or a soft light. Same thing. Diffuse simply means that the light is filtered through something. You got some light source, you got some usually white material in front of it to partially absorb the light and let the rest through to shine on the subject. which is me in this case. The material is called a light diffuser, which is usually a box that is around your light. It could also be just a panel or simply a sheet. It's called a diffuse box or a soft box more commonly. As a reminder, the whole streaming industry is booming, so you have other options these days. These are LED lights that have a soft box already built in. We're going to talk about some hardware recommendations towards the end of the video. The light source needs to be diffused because otherwise it will hurt your eyes, it will make you look too bright, it will light only a portion of your face, and it will create weird shadows. And by the way, you don't want to have shadows in a Zoom call. In cinematography sometimes you do, but not in a Zoom call. There are many ways to light up a scene, but the most common one is called the 3-point lighting because there are 3 lights involved. The most important one is the key light, and it's almost in front of you. It's never exactly in front of you, but for simplicity's sake, let's say that it's in front of you. It's the main light, it's the key light to light you. The problem with it is that if you have only the key light, then it creates a very harsh shadow on the other side. So usually you would use another light on the side. Mine is actually not positioned correctly just because I also have to use it to shine some light on the green screen, which is not how you light a green screen, but still. So another light is usually on the side to make the shadow look not so harsh. A common mistake that beginning streamers do is that they get 2 lights and they position them exactly symmetrically and they shine them with the exact same brightness. And this makes your face look a bit more washed out, a bit more shallow. It doesn't create a depth. In fact, my lights are not properly set up yet because I just moved into this place and, I did what I could. A bit later, I'm actually planning to move this side a little bit to the side over here, but if I want to do that, I actually need to get some decent lights to light up my green screen. The third light is the light at the top and a bit of the back to create a little bit more of a 3D effect. I'm going to turn my room light off, but unfortunately I don't have any remote way to do this, so I'm going to walk over there, turn it off, and come back. I wish I had a way for you to compare this, but essentially there is no light over here, so it makes this image to look more flat. Let me turn it back on. As you can see, there's a bit of light over here, but actually not too much. It's not positioned properly. And also the typical room lights, they're never bright enough for this kind of thing. Again, you're not a content creator, so you don't need 3 lights. Just get some key light right in front of your face, please, okay? Another thing that you need to know about lights is the temperature of the light. It's measured in Kelvin. Fun fact, it's actually not degrees as it is done with Celsius and Fahrenheit. So it kind of goes from like 2700, which is like very warm and kind of yellow, all the way to like 7000, which is like very almost blue. So my lights allow me to control this, so I'm gonna go all the way to the right, which is 2900, so it's kind of warm, and I'm probably getting issues in with lighting the green screen, and this is like 7000. My light bulb over there is 6500, so I'm gonna set this up to match it exactly. And this is also what you wanna do. You want to match your surroundings, maybe your skin color, maybe, I don't know, just make all of your lights have the same color unless you know exactly what you're doing. But again, you're not shooting a movie here. Cool, that's pretty much everything you need to know about the lights. Again, the lights are the most important part about this entire thing. Now let's talk about lenses and cameras. The first thing to know about lenses and cameras is that today you can actually use a fully professional cinematography camera as your webcam. For this, you need a thing called a capture card. It's just a small device. You use the HDMI output of your camera. The signal goes into your capture card. The capture card captures the signal. And on the other side, you have USB. So USB goes into your laptop, and your laptop sees it as a webcam. The main thing to know about capture cards is that the target audience is gamers, and so most drivers are available on Windows. Slightly less drivers are available on Macs and Linux as well. People give me shit for using Windows, but honestly, I don't have much choice. All right, now we'll talk about the details a bit later, but first let's try to answer the question, do you even need a better camera? Can't you just use your webcam? Well, here's the thing. Cameras today are computers, and when size is a constraint, then the quality of the image has to come from post-processing. This is called computational photography, and it's usually frowned upon by professional photographers and cinematographers, and obviously it will never replace real optics. In other words, the reason why webcams look horrible is because there is no space to put really good optics in them, and if you wanted to put a really good processor in them, they would get really expensive and nobody would buy them. In fact, this is why the images and videos produced by the camera of your phone look so much better than a webcam. Neither your webcam webcam or your phone have space for better optics. However, your phone, as opposed to your webcam, has access to a really nice microprocessor, all of this power. We went to the moon with less than that. Phones can get ridiculously expensive, but webcams can't. Nobody would buy them. And by the way, you can totally use your phone as a webcam. There's software for that. Now let's get back to the topic, and let me remind you that this video is a content creator giving advice to some professional who wants to look better on camera during a Zoom call. So here's what you do. You get a small tripod, you get a decent professional camera, you connect it to a capture card, USB goes out straight into your laptop sees it as a webcam, you're done. Also, don't forget about the light. Now, here are some details. As a professional photographer or a cinematographer, you want to have control over every aspect of your profession. And so for a very long time, the cameras came in two parts. You have the lens and you have separately a camera body. You do this to reduce cost and also to give a lot of control to the photographer or the cinematographer. For instance, you can get a really nice, really expensive lens and it's going to last you for like 20 years and you can put it on different camera bodies. Just FYI, lenses don't evolve that fast. Cameras do. Every 3 or 4 years, there's a world of a difference. By the way, when you're buying just the camera body, sometimes it comes as a kit with a kit lens. Kit lenses are usually very basic and are frowned upon, but honestly, at this point, anything is better than a webcam. Now, today, the cameras have evolved so much that you could even get a point and shoot camera. A point and shoot camera is literally a camera that you can just point at something and shoot your film. They don't come with interchangeable detachable lenses. Again, in the world of photography, they're usually frowned upon, but you're not a content creator, you're not a photographer, you're not a cinematographer, so for you, it's totally good enough. In fact, that's what I'm shooting on right now. So if I were you, I would go with a point and shoot camera unless you already have a camera laying around with a decent lens. Now, initially I wanted to talk about some tech specs for lenses and cameras, talk about shutter speeds and apertures and ISOs, but the previous video got so long that I decided not to do this. I'll have a link to a very good video that explains everything you ever wanted to know about this and more. In the initial version of the script, I wanted to at least give you some basics, but I didn't manage to even do that because it's just way too much information. I couldn't find a good way to compress it. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make a full professional cinematographer out of you in one video. The only thing I'll say is that you want a mirrorless camera. Point and shoot is enough. Just Google what a mirrorless camera is. Most of point and shoot cameras these days are mirrorless, so you should be good anyway. Instead of giving you the specs for cameras and lenses, we're going to focus on something that most photographers don't even know or at least don't care about. And it's those capture cards. It can either be built into your computer or connected via USB. There are several to choose from, several companies in fact, but honestly, this one is the easiest recommendation in the entire video. And as a reminder, unfortunately, I don't even have affiliate links yet. I've been using it for around 2 years. It's this one, it's called Camlink. So as you can see, there is HDMI on one end. I'm gonna wait for my camera to focus, and there's USB on the other, and it costs around 100 bucks. Really, get it. I've been using it for over 2 years, zero issues. In fact, this is my second one because the first one I'm using literally right now. This video is not being recorded, it's not being captured by my camera, it's being captured within my computer. Again, you need drivers, and for this one, you're covered on Windows and Mac. The most important part to know about capture cards is the fact that not every camera is compatible with them. In fact, not every capture card is even going to be recognized by your laptop as a webcam, which means that you won't even be able to select it in your Zoom or in your Google Meet or whatnot. Now, this particular one that I showed you will be, but just so you know, the main purpose for the capture cards, at least originally, was not to capture the signal from the camera, it was to capture gameplay for something like a SONY PlayStation or a GameCube or whatnot. If you go to the website of this capture card, if you scroll down, there will be a helpful video and also a short article which will list all of the things that you need to care about. I'm going to list a couple of them here as well. The first one is you need to make sure that your camera can output a clean HDMI output. Clean means that you won't see the camera menus because otherwise they will be captured by the capture card and you don't want that. The second thing that you need to worry about is that your camera is capable of outputting a clean 180p 30 signal. If your camera can record in 4K, this does not necessarily mean that it can actually output this via the HDMI output. Number 3 is kind of simple, but in fact it's not obvious. You need to make sure that your camera can be wall powered, which is not something that is like super obvious to be found in the world of cinematography or photography, which again brings me back to point and shoot cameras. Point and shoot cameras, remember, they are kind of frowned upon by photographers, but they're perfect for you. They can be even powered by USB. A lot of professional cameras don't even have a USB input to be powered, right? You would buy something that like fakes a battery and then connects to a wall and so on. Number 4, make sure that it doesn't go into some weird sleep mode after some time. By the way, there is another very subtle point sort of related to that, but it's actually not that. In Europe, for some political or business reason, I believe the taxes are somehow lower on smaller cameras, which are not like, you know, for cinema, but more like photography cameras. For some reason, when you start to record a video on them, the video will stop after half an hour. You can put them together in post, but that's obviously not useful for you. In any case, if you're using a capture card, you actually don't need to worry about any of them, because again, your camera will never actually start recording anything, so nothing will be stopped after half an hour. The capture card is what's capturing the stuff, and your laptop is what's actually recording it, right? So something like puts it on a hard drive, or technically during the call, nothing is even being recorded. It's just being sent out via Zoom or whatnot. The point I was trying to make is that you can get exactly the same camera, but if you buy it in Europe, it will stop after half an hour of recording. If you buy it somewhere like in the US, it won't. But again, for you, it doesn't matter because you will never even start recording. The last point is super, super important. Remember how I said that cameras are computers these days? Well, they also get smaller and smaller, and they can overheat, especially if you're sitting in front of a window in a very warm country and there's like direct sunlight just like bashing onto your camera. Direct sunlight is your worst enemy in this case. And so if you have control of your environment, you might need an air conditioner, especially if you're someone who sits in meetings all day. All right, now about the recommendations, Elgato has got you covered. I really wish that they would have sponsored this video. Get their key light. It's even called key light so that you don't confuse it with a kitchen light. You can also go for a ring light. It's a light in the form of a ring, and it's around your camera. It has a mount for your camera. If you're wearing glasses, you're going to see like a ring in them, so you might not want to go for them. But yeah, so the lights that come from them, they're based on LED technology. There's like an aluminum foil inside which reflects the light, so it's diffused for you, so you don't need a softbox or anything like this. You can control them with your phone, with your computer and whatnot. It gets attached straight to your desk, so you don't need the stand, you don't need a tripod, you don't need anything else. Just get it and light's done. Capture card, again, Elgato has got you covered. We don't need to talk about this. They have several options, but this one is the one that you want. You know, it's called CamLink. Just connect it via USB. If you're on Windows or on Mac, you're good to go. Lenses and cameras. There are many brands, but there are 4 of them that sort of stand out and kind of well known. There is Nikon, Panasonic, Sony, and Canon. Nikon is sometimes frowned upon for videos, but it's very good for photography. But you know, you will always find people who argue on the other side, and honestly, for Zoom calls it really doesn't matter. Even if you have a Nikon laying around, it's going to be fine. About the brand, this is something that everyone has the opinion on. You kind of get an ecosystem and you're a little bit locked into it because of the lenses and the cameras. It's not as simple as, oh, okay, I have a Sony lens and therefore I can only connect it to a Sony camera. But it's actually very close to that, so you have to do your own research. It's actually very similar to something like a motherboard socket and a CPU socket that have to match. Anyways, you can't go wrong with any of them, but Sony has been killing it lately, especially in the market for not professional photography. Their autofocus is killing it, which doesn't sound like something you would need to worry about if you're just sitting in front of the camera, but trust me, if you don't know anything about cameras, autofocus is something very, very important. So my recommendations are the mirrorless point and shoot cameras from Sony, specifically the RX100 series. I'm shooting it on a number 5. By the way, the more recent versions have like the number 6 or 7, but they're not necessarily better for video, so do your own research. In fact, there's an entire new series. You might want to check out the Sony ZV-1. In general, what you're interested in are the so-called vlogging style cameras, right? They're small, they're mirrorless, they're point and shoot, they have a flip out screen so that you can see yourself and so on. Another option that you could go with is again Sony, but this time not the ZV-1, but the ZV-E10, which is very, very similar to the ZV-1. However, this one is targeted for the beginning professionals, beginning photographers. There are 2 signs that this camera targets professionals, even though beginners, but still. First point is that the lens is interchangeable, so you can go really crazy about it. Remember, you can have like a relatively cheap camera body and you can get a super fancy lens on it and the image is going to look phenomenal. And the second point is that it actually has a headphone jack, which is the reason why I told you in the previous video to watch this one before you decide on buying a microphone. So you could get a very short shotgun microphone, attach it directly to your camera and film like this. In fact, I'm going to have a link down in the description of a video where a guy took exactly the ZV-E10 and like 5 different shotgun microphones and compared them. Those shotgun microphones are not designed for this camera, but you know, in this video he took exactly this camera. And also, fun fact, those capture cards that I talked about, they're actually capable of recording the sound. So if you get a shotgun microphone, you don't even need to get an audio interface, right? So the shotgun microphone goes into the camera, the sound of the camera goes into the capture card together with the video, all of it goes into USB and Zoom can see it. And there you have it. Just clean up your room, put some pads on, get some mini tripod, get a point and shoot mirrorless camera, get a capture card that connects via USB into your laptop, get some light that shines into your face, the most important part, and then bam, you look shiny. One last thing that I would like to mention that is very important. Yes, some of this stuff sounds like it is pricey, but you have to look at it like this. You're not a content creator. You're not starting out in your mother's basement and, you know, trying to make it big on YouTube or something like this. You have to look at it as a work investment. Like, you're probably someone who invests like every 4 years in a new laptop, which costs probably like 2K or something. So you might as well spend like 1.5K or something into all of this stuff. And in all honesty, it actually survives way longer than something like a laptop. Some of my gear is like 5 years old. Like my audio interface is 5 years old. My microphone is 2 years old. My other microphone is 2 years old, and so on. My camera is 2 years old, right? So all of this stuff, if you calculate the price like on a monthly basis, it's actually not that much. All right, I hope you enjoyed both of these videos, and I hope to see you in the next one, in which we're going to go back to improving the actual developer inside you. I see you in the next one. For now, as always, it's Vlad from devinsideyou.com. Don't forget to like this video if you did, subscribe if you want to improve the developer inside you, and if you learned something today, consider supporting me on GitHub sponsors or Patreon, whichever you prefer, and just watch my videos weeks and sometimes even months before everyone else. And most importantly, take care.